What if abstraction in the Amazing Digital Circus was unique to each character, becoming a monster shaped by their personality, flaws, and themes? These guys are all messed up mentally, so let's create some creepy designs that reflect that. Hey guys, it's Lucky, and I have a confession. I love the Amazing Digital Circus. Ever since I first gave into the hype and gave the show a watch, I was hooked on the show's interesting premise, great animation, and impeccable character writing. The show just scratches this itch for me that I didn't even know I had, and for that, Gooseworks, I thank you. In the circus, when a character's mental state becomes too fragile, and they can no longer tolerate the eternal rainbow kindergarten hell they now reside in, they abstract, becoming these giant, multi-eyed glitch monsters. And in the context of this digital world, yeah, that design totally makes sense. But I couldn't help but wonder, what would it look like if abstraction was a little more personal? So I threw some of our most beloved characters into the Nightmare Blender and created 3 unique and creepy abstracted designs. Let's jump into it. You either love to love him or you love to hate him. Let's start with Jax. Jax, to me, is a fascinating character because despite his confident attitude, he feels like the most broken member of the group. Except maybe for Kinga, but does he really count?
Did someone say something about an insect collection?
While the other characters fight to hold on to their humanity, Jax has purposefully tried to shed his, embracing the chaotic and meaningless nature of their new reality. Always trying to seem above it all, always facing a situation with a sassy remark or that ever-present smile. And that permanent smile was my main source of inspiration for this design. I wanted to portray him kind of being overcome by his persona, so I hollowed out his expression to look like a mask and gave him these massive wings in the shape of that signature smile. I made his silhouette large and overpowering to give the sense of overcompensation and giving him a look that would make him the center of attention in every room. But that smile will always remain, looming ominously over him. And his wings kind of have this jazz hands, like look at me pose going on, which I think conveys that comedic attention-seeking persona Jax has quite well. With him being the only animal member of the cast, I gave him features from other rodent-adjacent creatures, making this kangaroo, bat, bunny, snake hybrid. Because, while he is a rabbit, that man is a snake.
And I get joy out of making you suffer.
I included elements from the official abstraction designs in all of these drawings. I actually do really like how the official designs look, and I think they make a lot of sense. I mean, why would your code essentially getting corrupted make you start aura farming? But regardless, I just thought it was a really interesting concept and would be a cool way to experiment with some fun designs. I pointed all of the extra eyes downwards as a nod to that idea of him looking down on the other characters in the circus, ignoring their complexities and flattening them into these simple archetypes. And here's my final design for Jax. His design and character is just so iconic, and I do really enjoy him in the show. With that kind of evil narcissist Bugs Bunny energy, it was just so much fun to exaggerate it in this way. Let me know what you think. Okay, now for a character who has grown on me so much throughout this show, Ragatha. So Ragatha's character explores the nature of people-pleasing and the harm it can cause to yourself and others. And I'll just say I love this direction they took her character in and how they've portrayed it throughout the show. I, myself, have had to deal with some people-pleasing tendencies in the past, and it's so fascinating seeing it explored in this way, as it's not something I've really seen many other shows tackle before. This design for Ragatha was so much fun to make because her ragdoll theming just provides so many opportunities for creative visuals and metaphor. I stretched her arms all the way out and pinned them down to reference that idea of spreading herself too thin, trying to be the person she thinks everyone needs. And looking at it now, it's quite Jesus-like, which wasn't a conscious choice, but yeah, I mean, it works. Jesus can be creepy. I split open her chest with her stuffing falling out in a vaguely intestinal way to convey the idea of her giving up too much of herself. Her face is stitched into this eternal smile, and I added these red threads coming out from behind her, twisting around her and forming a sad or distressed expression, which just shows the way her people-pleasing restricts her and holds her back, but also that idea of how the way we present ourselves on the surface often doesn't represent what's really going on inside, which is a theme exemplified through a lot of the show's cast. And then finally, I removed her legs and gave her this giant mound of stuffing, which I imagine her moving around on like a slug, which just elevates that creepy, monstrous feel of this design and kind of just emphasizes that feeling of this weight and burden she is carrying with her. And here's the final drawing for Ragatha. This one for me was definitely a trust the process sort of drawing. I loved the initial sketch, and then in the middle, it was rough. But after finishing it, I'm really happy with it, and I think it's actually my favorite. I'm especially happy with how her hair looks. I don't know what I did, but I love it. Okay, and you know her, you love her. Now for our main girl, Pomni. So Pomni is our protagonist, and compared to the rest of the cast, she's a lot harder to define. Acting as our introduction and window into the world of the circus, and with her design also being the most humanoid out of the group, she was the hardest for me to nail down. Pomni is thrust into the role of unofficial group therapist when King is out of the office.
We'll get through it together. Is that rope attached to anything? I don't know. Let me check.
And she kind of has this jack of all trades role within the circus, being the sort of glue that's tying the rest of this cast together. And it's been super satisfying to watch her character evolve and gain confidence throughout the show. When I was thinking about Pomni, I kept on coming back to the many sides of her character. She's like a very simply complicated character, if that makes sense. She's sort of able to play the field, being torn between her relationships with several conflicting and very opposing characters within the circus. And so inspired by the two-toned contrasting colour scheme she already has present in her design, I split her in half, removing her mouth as an inversion of her role as the protagonist and voice of reason within the show, and giving her these two mouth eyes on her jester hat, with one cheerful and one angry. I also gave her 6 arms to represent that sort of every girl, jack of all trades type I associate with her. And also because as the protagonist, she oftentimes is the doer of the show, taking actions that are moving the plot forward. And for my absolute favorite part of this design, so simple, but I just love how it looks, I drew her pupils in the shape of doors to signify that exit door, something that was featured heavily in the pilot, which also the teaser for episode 7 just dropped. I'm sure it will already be out by the time you're watching this. And it seems like that exit door is going to be making a comeback, which is very interesting. Hope this video hasn't aged too poorly. Anyway, here's the final design for Pomni. I somehow managed to make this the most simple design out of all of them, but also the most visually chaotic. Adding the black and the neons to her already high contrast color palette probably didn't help, but then again, Zubul looks like this. So I'll just say it's on theme. And that's all I have for you guys today. This video was so much fun to make. I think with the new episode coming out, I just couldn't contain my excitement and had to make something for it. If you did enjoy today's video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out so much. And there's still plenty members of the cast that I didn't get to today, so if enough of you enjoyed this, you may see them abstracted in some horrific ways in the future. Who knows? But with that all said, thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful to have you here, and I'll see you all very soon.